Tasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshan Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Tanta Saminitin Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavade Jaya Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirasai Sasanyavadi Prashkaptide Satar Tishatar Om Agyanataminandasya Janajana Salakaya Chaksavasamitam Vajatazman Sri Guruvinama Sri Caitanya Manabhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kalamayam Dadati Sapandantikam Mansakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Vaja Patitanam Pabhinebhyo Vaishnadevi Namo Namah. Hare Krishna. Sri Krishna Janmashtami ki jai. Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja ki jai. 2 weeks ago, we were hearing about Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's arrival in Shantipur, the home of Sri Advaita Acharya, and there, in the association of Advaita Acharya, Nityananda Prabhu, and a few others, Mahaprabhu was dancing and dancing and dancing in ecstasy. He was completely enwrapped in his internal mood. Because, Radhaman? Yeah. Because this is what happened when Caitanya Mahaprabhu chanted the holy names. His internal mood was deeply involved in separation. Sometimes, some of us, when we chant Krishna's holy names, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, don't have that same experience. Rather, our minds wander to all the things that fill our mind during the day. Our minds wander and wander to all the things that fill our mind during the day, which is something that's very interesting. His Holiness Satyananda Maharaj used to say, I'm not sure if he still says it, but he used to say that when we sit down to chant our japa, and this is just a general statement, we immediately discover how alive our relationship is with Krishna. It places that before our eyes in our consciousness. How many of you felt happy when you heard that? How many of you felt quite confronted with the abysmal state of our consciousness, not our consciousness, but my own consciousness? Because just consider that Krishna and his names are the same. And how much of that do we experience? And Mahaprabhu, on the other hand, experienced it completely. He experienced that completely when he chanted the holy names, and he was completely always enwrapped in the thoughts of Krishna. Abhinatam Namanamano, Krishna and Krishna's names were the same for him. And he was with Krishna when he was chanting Krishna's names. And in the mood of Srimati Radharani, he was feeling complete separation from Krishna while being with Krishna. And on the other hand, contrasting that is the conditioned soul and what he experiences. Of course, it's better to be chanting the holy names imperfectly, because out of that, in time, perfection will come. But yet, what fills our consciousness, again, is what fills our consciousness during the day. What fills our consciousness when we chant is it's holding up a mirror so we can see the state of our consciousness during the day. And I was just listening to a lecture of Srila Prabhupada's, and he was saying something right from Bhagavad Gita, that whatever fills our consciousness during the day, practically speaking, will fill our consciousness when it's time to leave this world. And when it's time to leave this world, what fills our consciousness, adhishtaya manastayam vishyopasevate, will determine what our next birth is. Now, some of you that may be very reassuring for, and some of us it may be very frightening. And if you're not sure whether it's going to be reassuring or frightening, what you can do to make an experiment is whatever comes into your mind, you can just say all day long. And then you'll find out whether it's reassuring or frightening by everyone else's reaction to what's in your mind all day long. But Mahaprabhu was in ecstasy, and Advaita Acharya was taking his feet, and Mahaprabhu went completely internal, and Mukunda Datta was reciting verses that were harmonious with Mahaprabhu's mood. And the verses were of separation that the gopis felt from Krishna at Kurukshetra, the most elevated of emotions, the most elevated of spiritual emotions, because we are eternal souls, and the soul is a person, and that which we have as persons in this world is a reflection of what's there in the spiritual world. So there's the senses are there, the mind is there, and emotions there, intelligent, everything is there in the spiritual world. And when everything is completely and lovingly absorbed in Krishna, then in this world, so-called in this world, practically speaking, we won't be in this world. And of course that raises the question, which we won't get into now, but which is our whole process of Krishna consciousness. When we hold up the mirror, somehow we get a glimpse of what our consciousness is like, and then we hear what the ideal consciousness was, because Caitanya Mahaprabhu was relishing but also displaying the ideal. Then the question is, how to get from here to there? Sometimes we would like to go from here to there, but it doesn't work like that, because generally speaking, of course, by Krishna's special mercy, one can make that huge step like that, but generally it's a bit of a more gradual process. And if we try by the power of our intelligence to go to here, then we end up going back to here usually very quickly. From now on, I'm going to love Krishna with all my heart and never think of anything else but Krishna, and everything is Krishna's mercy no matter what happens. It usually takes a little more gradual steps on the path. But yet, the sand in the hourglass of our life is passing through, and life really does have its purpose. Human life has its purpose. And this is what it is. That's what Prabhupada insisted. And he would do it so strongly that everything else is rascaldom and nonsense and all our... But yet we can use whatever situation we're in under proper guidance to move forward, to move closer. But yet the hourglass, the sand is running through the hourglass. So we shouldn't be neglectful. There's such a tendency to think, for good reason, there's a tendency to think that tomorrow's always going to be just like today was, basically. And in this way, in a succession of todays and tomorrows and todays and tomorrow, that I'm going to live forever. But it's not going to be like that, because if it is like that for you, you're going to be the first person in all of history who it's been like that for. Even the most aged of persons don't make it eternally in the material realm. So Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu stopped Mahaprabhu's dancing after some time, and the day ended. And because Mahaprabhu had been fasting for 3 days, his body, transcendental body, appeared tired, so they put Mahaprabhu to rest. And then the next morning occurred. Now, we've heard one aspect of Mahaprabhu, of Caitanya Mahaprabhu, now Sri Krishna Chaitanya, the sannyasi who had come back to Nadia district. We've heard one aspect of him, but now, because he's a person, Mahaprabhu is a person, Krishna is a person, and we are also people. And that means being a person means you have aspects of your personality. We're not homogeneous one things. We have one thing only. And we have different aspects of who we are. So now Mahaprabhu is going to demonstrate a different aspect of who he is. So we've seen him as the renounced sannyasi who was going to Vrindavan and then was brought back to Shantipur by Nityananda Prabhu. And now we're going to see something else. But first, Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that what happened, what we heard just before about Mahaprabhu dancing in ecstasy with the devotees, this happens every day with the chanting and feasting in the home of Advaitacharya. This happened continuously for the next days. And Advaitacharya served Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this way without any change. Now, in the morning, Prabhate, in the morning, Acharya Ratna Dolaya Chandana Bhakta Gana Sange Oila Sachi Mata Lai. In the morning, Chandrasekhar seated Sachimata in a palanquin and brought her from her house with many devotees. In this way, all the people of the town of Nadia, including all women, boys, and old men, came there. Thus, the crowd increased. So when all the people of Nadia and all the devotees in Mayapur Navadvip heard that Mahaprabhu was there in Shantipur as a sannyasi, everyone came to see him. They came to Shantipur to see him. And in the morning, after regular duties were completed and the Lord was chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the people accompanied Sachimata to the house of Advaitacharya. Now, it's good to be reminded how Sachimata, when Mahaprabhu was leaving to take sannyas, Sachimata knew that he was going to take sannyas that night. So he got up in the middle of the night, practically speaking, to cross the river Ganga to go to Katwa, the place of Kesava Bharani Maharaj. And Sachimata was at the door, just sitting in the doorway. And there was only one way out. and Mahaprabhu had to, and she was just crying and crying and crying because the sannyasi couldn't return to his home again. So there, in Chaitanya Bhagavat, there's the most touching scene that's described of this. And there's one recording of Prabhupada when he's describing this. And he starts crying, even if it was so intense. Did you ever hear that recording?
I would like to hear.
Yeah.
You avoided my question. But you have given a good answer, because if anyone would like to hear it, you just start listening to all of Prabhupada's recordings. And then eventually you'll get there. So then the test of, would you really like to hear it? Then I want to be in Goloka Vrindavan. I want to be in the spiritual world. And then when I in those rare moments of sincerity, I imagine Krishna responding, "Oh, really? Let's see. Let's see what you really want." That's my imagination. So it's such a touching scene, and Mahaprabhu told her that, I will always be with you. I'll always be with you. And I'm there in the form of the holy names, and I'm there in the form of the deity. I'm always with you. I'll always be with you. And indeed, 3 times in Caitanya Caritamrta, not once, not twice, but 3 times, Krishnadas Kaviraj narrates how Mahaprabhu tells 3 devotees, Damodar Pandit, Jagannatha Pandit at different times, and Srivas Thakur, to reassure Sachimata that he comes to see her every day. And she may think it's a dream. She cooks for him every day, and Mahaprabhu eats it. And sometimes she thinks that, the food, my plate is empty, perhaps that I offered to Nimai. So perhaps I didn't put anything on it. So then she goes and cooks again and does it again. And 3 times Mahaprabhu reassures her that he kept this as completely. There are several things he always did in a what's called an avirbhava form, in this in a manifested form. And one of them was go to Sachimata every day, and he would always dance. When Nityananda Prabhu was dancing, he was always in the courtyard of Srivas Thakur. And so this is the Supreme Lord. So when we go somewhere, we leave the place that we're going. But when Krishna goes, Padam ekam nagacchati, he doesn't leave Vrindavan. Actually, even though he leaves Vrindavan, he doesn't leave Vrindavan. And he's there in his uppercut, or unmanifested feature. And then, anyway, we're getting a little off the topic, but then how does one get from this realm where Krishna isn't there to that realm when Krishna is there? And the answer is through loving separation and desire that makes that channel to the spiritual realm, and that works. So if you want to be in the spiritual realm, Krishna may be saying, "Oh, really? Well, here's how you do it. You have to love Krishna. You have to love Krishna, and you have to miss him, and miss his association in this realm." So Mother Sachi was completely devastated when Mahaprabhu left. It wasn't that she said, anyway, he's gone, but he's there in the form of the holy names, and he's there in the form of the deities anyway. No problem. No, the nature of love is not like that. Love is love. So, as soon as Mother Sachi appeared on the scene, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fell before her like a stick. Sachi age padila Prabhu dandavadhai, kanditela gila Sachi kole utain. Mother Sachi began to cry, and she took the Lord on her lap. One may say, he's a sannyasi, this is his mother, this is the nature of spontaneous love. It's just, it is what it is. Mahaprabhu had spontaneous love for Sachimata, and Sachimata had complete, overwhelmingly spontaneous love for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the most renounced ideal sannyasi was acting like this on the spiritual plane too, with his mother. She began to cry, taking the Lord on her lap. Upon seeing each other, they both became overwhelmed. Seeing the Lord's head without hair, Mother Sachi became greatly agitated. Out of love, she began to caress the body of the Lord. Sometimes she kissed his face and tried to observe him. She looked at him again and again. But because her eyes filled with tears, she could not see. And she knew that Mahaprabhu was taking sannyas, and she had heard that Mahaprabhu had taken sannyas, and she was coming there to see Mahaprabhu, her son, as a sannyasi, but it wasn't really until he was right in front of her with a shaved head, wearing his saffron cloth. Then she understood, oh, he's taking sannyas. She cried, and she said to the Lord, Kandiya kahena shachi baichare nimani. She said to him, nimani means, oh Nimai. So she didn't say, oh, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, oh, Caitanya Mahaprabhu. She said, oh Nimai, my darling Nimai. Do not be cruel like Visharupa, your elder brother, because Visharupa, he took sannyas and then he never returned again. He went down south. He had the sannyas name of what? What was Visharupa's sannyas name? Shankaranya. Yes, you know that? Yeah. This, Mahaprabhu finds this out when he gets to Pandharpur. Have you been to see Lord Vital in Pandharpur? Has anyone been to see Lord Vital in Pandharpur? What does he look like?
He's standing on the bridge, right? His hips.
But I've also not seen, but the devotees in Maharashtra especially, they have such devotion for Lord Vital. So speaking about Vishrup, she says, after accepting the renounced daughter, Vishrup never again gave me audience. She uses Dila Darshan, not Dila Darshan. Never again gave me audience, gave me darshan. If you do like him, if you act in this way, that will certainly be the death of me. Now what is Mahaprabhu going to do when his mother says this to him? Do you think he's going to say, Dehenos min yata dehe komaramachere, that we're not our bodies, don't worry, it's okay, our relationship is, we should be tatam sitikshas for bharata, should be very tolerant. Do you think he's going to quote Bhagavad Gita slokas? What do you think?
He's going to love her.
He certainly is. And he replies, Kandiya Balena Prabhu. Prabhupada didn't put this word in his purport, but Kandiya means crying. Kandiya Balena, he said, Prabhu says, the Lord said, please listen. Shuni Shono. Morai. Listen to what I'm saying, my I, because she would call him Nimai and he would call her I, my mother. That's in Maharashtra, everyone calls mother. What did you?
I.
You also?
No. I said
No.
Mama, but
Mama.
in Maharashtra, I.
Yeah. What do you call your mother?
Mama.
No.
Mom.
Mom, modern. Oh yeah. You're not from that place. Any Marathis? No, they always. What do you call your mother?
He used to call her mom.
Mom. And therefore you ended up in Perth, Australia.
Same.
Mom. Perth, Australia. But in Chaitanya Bhagavat it says that even if you just say the word I can't remember the benediction, but it's something glorious. That your heart will be purified or you'll go back to Godhead. You can say it quietly if you like. If you give class in Pune or something and you quote that, everyone will, because it's completely natural. So Mahaprabhu said, my dear mother, please hear. He was crying. This body belongs to you. I do not possess anything. This body was raised by you, and it comes from you. I cannot repay this debt, even in millions of births. Knowingly or unknowingly, I have accepted this renounced order. Still, I shall never be indifferent to you. My dear mother, wherever you ask me to stay, I shall stay. And whatever you order, I shall execute. Saying this, the Lord offered obeisances to his mother again and again, and Mother Sachi, being pleased, took him again and again on her lap. Then Advaitacharya took Mother Sachi within the house. The Lord was immediately ready to meet all the devotees, because all the devotees had accompanied Sachimata, but they respectfully allowed Mother Sachi to come in first and be alone with Mahaprabhu. And then after they had this very affection-filled exchange, then Mahaprabhu was ready to meet the other devotees, and Advaitacharya very gently took Sachimata out, because she was satisfied. So then the devotees, one by one, came in. One after another, he met them. Sarva Bhaktagan. Eka Eka Malila Prabhu Sarva Bhaktagan. And then when Mahaprabhu, it describes Sabal Mukha Deki, he looked at each devotee's face. He looked at them individually, one by one. He looked at everyone. All these devotees that he had such a relationship with for years, every day they chanted together, they exchanged ecstasy, they worshipped him in his Mahaprakash as the Supreme Lord. And now they were seeing him as a sannyasi, and he was reciprocating with them individually. Although the devotees were unhappy at not seeing the Lord's hair, they nonetheless derived great happiness from seeing his beauty. Saundarya Dekitev Talba Upaya Mahashuka, they were feeling great happiness just seeing his beauty. So then the names, Kaviraj Goswami mentions the names. Srivas, Thakur, Ramai, Vidyanidhi. What's Vidyanidhi's first name? Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Gadadhar, Gangadas, Vikeshwar, Murari, Suklambara, Buddhimantakan, Nandana, Sridhar, Vijay, Vasudev, Damodar, Mukunda, Sanjay, and all the others. However many I can mention, indeed, all the inhabitants of Navadvip arrived there, and the Lord met them with smiles and glances of mercies, and just seeing him, they derived some satisfaction. Everyone was chanting the holy names of Hari and dancing, Anande Nachai. They were dancing in ecstasy. In this way, the house of Advaitacharya was converted into Sri Vaikuntha Puri. Because this is what happens when the devotees are all chanting and dancing in ecstasy, that the whole place becomes the spiritual world. People came to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from various other villages nearby, as well as Navadvip. So there was Mother Sachi, then the other devotees who were intimate with Mahaprabhu, then people from the nearby villages and all over Nadia, and the people from Navadvip who didn't have that kind of intimate relationship with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They all came to see him. To everyone who came to see the Lord from villages nearby, especially from Navadvip, Advaitacharya gave residential quarters, as well as all kinds of eatables for many days. Indeed, he properly adjusted everything. So what did you hear then? What do you remember from that last sloka that I just read?
He was a very compassionate host. He really took care of all of his guests.
Yes? What two things did it mention that he did?
He gave quarters for everyone
Yeah.
and food.
Yeah, he fed them and gave them a place to rest. And then they could see Mahaprabhu without any anxiety, thinking, oh, where am I going to sleep tonight? And who's going to feed me and things. So they could just be with Mahaprabhu. So that's, when that is done with great affection and care and respect, and the people relax and they this is the culture, the Vaishnava culture, and the mood that everything is done in has to be is proper too. The mood. What? He properly adjusted everything. Yeah, samadhan. Food, drink, and this is for 10 days. So how was he able to do this? The next verse gives the answer. The supplies of Advaita Acharya were inexhaustible and indestructible. As many goods and commodities as he used, just as many again appeared somehow or another by the grace of Krishna. That it was all adjusted so everyone was satisfied and peaceful and happy, so that they could engage in the spiritual activities with Caitanya Mahaprabhu in wonderful consciousness. From the day Sachimata arrived at the house of Advaita Acharya, she took charge of the cooking, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dined in the company of all the devotees. So just how nice everything went. Mahaprabhu took prasadam with all the devotees. Sachimata was able to cook to her heart's content for Mahaprabhu and everyone. And all the people who came there during the day, they saw Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the friendly behavior of Advaita Acharya. At night, they had the opportunity to see the Lord's dancing and to hear his chanting. Now, what's especially significant about that? Does anyone know?
I guess usually during the nocturnal kirtans it's normally very confidential, but everybody had the opportunity to see the Lord chant and dance this time.
Exactly. During his Navadip Leela, Mahaprabhu's Navadip Leela, when they began the kirtan, the doors were closed. And this was very, very frustrating for tourists or people who just wanted to see what was going on. They'd hear the loud chanting, and this caused quite a stir in Navadvip, and quite a disturbance, and there was a lot of criticism, but Mahaprabhu didn't care. There's even there's two pastimes that are narrated in Chaitanya Bhagavata. One was there is Srivas Thakur's mother-in-law wanted to. This was a kirtan in the house of Srivas Thakur, and his mother-in-law wanted to see what was going on and be involved in the kirtan. So they hid her in a corner somewhere, because she wasn't a devotee. She wasn't allowed in theoretically, but after all, she was Srivas Thakur's mother-in-law, Malini Devi's mother. So in the middle of the chanting, Mahaprabhu stops. He says, "Today, I cannot feel ecstasy when I'm chanting. There must be someone here who doesn't belong." So sometimes we may wonder, why can't we just be allowed to go back to Godhead, to be in Vrindavan? Well, this is the reason, because our consciousness just isn't the right consciousness to be there. So it doesn't work. You have to have, it's a matter of consciousness. So there would be a disharmony between all the people and the circumstances in Vrindavan and Krishna, because all the people in Vrindavan, they have so much love for Krishna. They're filled with thoughts, their consciousness. So yes, all of us have we walk around in this bubble, the bubble of our consciousness. Yes? So what's in the residents of Vrindavan's consciousness is only Krishna and what will be pleasing to Krishna, no matter what their situation, and it's love in a specific mood that only the residents of Vrindavan have. So an outsider can come and they'll, like when Manigriva and Nalakuvara, when they were liberated from their tree births, they said, after they prayed to the Lord, they said, we have to leave now. And Lord Brahma also felt uncomfortable because they didn't belong. They didn't have the right mood to be there. So Srivas Thakur's mother-in-law, when Mahaprabhu said, just imagine. So anyway, Srivas Thakur looked down, found her, and grabbed her by the neck in somewhat a rough way. Escorted out. And there was another one, this very pure-hearted Brahmin, what was his special characteristic? Anyone know? He only drank milk. He lived his whole life only drinking milk. He wouldn't eat anything else. So, same thing in the middle of the kirtan. And he was pure in so many ways. In the middle of the kirtan, Mahaprabhu stops and says, something's wrong. There's someone here who doesn't belong. And you can just hear, and then they knew who it was. And then Mahaprabhu, they took him outside, and Mahaprabhu said to him, do you think you can develop love for Krishna just by only drinking milk? You think that's going to be the thing that brings you love for Krishna, by performing this austerity? And the Brahmin was so humble. He just so much appreciated the time that he saw, and he just took everything so perfectly, and he got a benediction from that very soon he would actually have the proper full qualification. But at this time, after Mahaprabhu had taken sannyas, different from his Navadvip Mayapur Leela, the doors were open completely. And everyone could come in. And everyone could see the amazing dancing of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Everyone could hear his chanting. So it was especially wonderful and magnanimous. Yeah, so in so many places it describes that no one could describe the dancing of Mahaprabhu. It was so amazing. So I can't say much about it, but we can say that tears would come from his eyes. And sometimes he would become like a pillar. His ecstasy would take him in these different... Sometimes his body would become as soft as butter, and his body would erupt. Erupulation is the technical word for it, and when goose hair would stand on end. And sometimes he would be as light as a feather. The devotees would carry him around, and sometimes he would be completely heavy and no one could lift him, and he would be rigid and sometimes completely flexible. So it was quite astounding, and all would be. It wasn't a acrobatic performance, but it was, the whole atmosphere would be surcharged with ecstasy. The spiritual world had descended. And then they would all take prasadam with Mahaprabhu. When the Lord performed kirtan, he manifested all kinds of transcendental symptoms. He appeared stunned, and his body would begin to tremble. His hair stood on end, and his voice faltered. There were tears and devastation. Srila Prabhupada's short purport. Devastation, because the word is, Gadgada is the faltering of voice, and then pralaya, stambhakampa, pulakashru, hair standing on end, Gadgada, faltering voice, and pralaya, devastation. So devastation, pralaya, is described in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu as a combination of happiness and distress. A combination of happiness and distress that becomes conspicuous by an absence of any sense of them. So one's consciousness, you're caught between being happy and distressed, and you're not aware of your own situation. It's so intense. And in this condition, a devotee falls to the ground, and the subsequent symptoms in the body ensue, so then everything else happens. These symptoms are mentioned above, and when they become prominent in the body, the state is called pralaya, devastation. The state called pralaya is manifest. Frequently, the Lord would tumble to the ground, and seeing this, Mother Sachi would cry. Srimati Sachi Mata, she thought that the body of Nimai was being smashed when he fell down so. When he fell down so, she would cry, alas, and petition Lord Vishnu, my dear Lord, kindly bestow this benediction as a result of whatever service I have rendered unto you from my childhood. Whenever Nimai falls to the surface of the earth, please do not let him feel any pain. So, this is love. One is concerned only with the situation of one's beloved. So Mother Sachi was only concerned with that Nimai wouldn't experience anything negative at all. Because he would crash to the ground and become devastated. When Mother Sachi was thus overwhelmed in maternal love for Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, she became transformed with happiness, fear, and humility, as well as bodily symptoms. So this is the theory of rasa. When one is in relationship with one's beloved, then one gets the experience. When one is in relationship, so if there's some documentary or something like that, or on television or something, and there's maybe bombs being dropped somewhere in the world, and it does happen, or an explosion or something like that, and you could be sitting eating your evening meal or something like that and just watch this going on. But then if you suddenly recognize, oh no, I know that person, then it becomes completely different. Oh no. Then your heart breaks, you might even cry or whatever. So what's the difference between documentary watching and the other experience? It's relationship. So the same thing is with Shastra too. If we can read Shastra, and it's more or less, we're hearing it like a documentary. But because our relationship with Krishna or Caitanya Mahaprabhu or Sachi Mata isn't developed. But if If the relationship is there, then the experience will also be there. That's the understanding of rasa. Not explained fully, but that's the understanding. So Mother Shachi was thus overwhelmed with Vatsalya Vivala. She was overwhelmed with Vatsalya Bhav, the mood of motherhood. And Harsha, happiness, Bhaya, fear, Daini, humility, Bhave, Hoila, Vikala. Her body was transformed by all these different conflicting emotions. Humility, she couldn't do anything about it. Happiness, she was seeing her son. Fear, oh, my son will be hurt. So all these conflicting emotions are going on at the same time. It's not static, it's ecstatic. It's life in the spiritual world. So when she became transformed with happiness, fear, and humility, as well as bodily symptoms. And we'll just leave this final purport here. These verses indicate that Mother Shachi, born in the family of Nilambara Chakravarti, used to worship Lord Vishnu even before her marriage. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Prapya Punya Kritam Lokan Usitva Shashvati Sama Suchinam Shrimatam Gehe Yoga Brashta Abhijayate. The unsuccessful yogi, after many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. So, making the point that Mother Sachi is saying, if I have any piety, any piety, please let it manifest in this way that my son Nimai won't be hurt when he falls down. This is the benediction, the sort of piety. When you do something pious, it's like putting money in the bank, and then when you want to do something, you withdraw it when you want to get a result. So this was she was making a full withdrawal from her piety account, and wanted it not for her own enjoyment, just to save Nimai from any difficulty. So Mother Shakshi, a Nitya Siddha living entity, is an incarnation of Mother Yashoda. She appeared in the house of Nilambara Chakravarti and was everlastingly engaged in the service of Lord Vishnu. Later, she directly had as her child Lord Vishnu, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and she served him from the day of his appearance. This is the position of Nitya Siddha associates. Sri Narottama Das Thakur therefore sings Gaurang Gera Sange Gane Nitya Siddha Kori Mane. Every devotee should know that all the associates of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, his family members, friends, and other associates were all Nitya Siddhas. A Nitya Siddha never forgets the service of the Lord. He is always engaged, even from childhood, in worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, we shall stop here. Thank you. Any questions or comments? You have a question hidden in there. I know you do. What is it?
How to strengthen relationship with Krishna? But I guess I already know, I just have to practice it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Well, that's really good. That really saves me work, too. Questions and answers. You can do both. Well, that's a whole process, right? So what works best for you to strengthen your relationship with Krishna?
Well, I've asked that question a lot of time.
To who?
A lot of times, just friends and
Well, but no, I'm asking you.
Yeah.
Did you ask you yet? What works best for you in strengthening your relationship with Krishna? Oh, okay. How many of you, when I asked that question over here, how many of you asked that question to yourself? Okay, now you can answer.
Well,
How many of you came up with an answer? Yeah? Maybe. Non-committal. Yeah.
association with devotees.
Okay.
And realizing the material world isn't gonna.
Okay, but one is something you can do. You can say, I'm going to associate with devotees, and you can stand up and do that. Yes? But realization is not something you could say I'm going to have a realization right now. You can't do that. Right?
No.
So when we're talking about what works best for you, we mean what is that's in your control, that is actually within your capacity. Like not in the same, like say you wanted to be in Mayapur right now. What works for me best is to be in Mayapur, but that's maybe your desire, but it's not in your capacity to be in Mayapur except mentally right now. Can you go to Mayapur mentally right now?
Yeah.
Okay, close your eyes, go.
Okay.
We might just leave you there, though.
I was in the Ganga.
You're in the Ganga?
Yeah.
Were you swimming?
Yeah.
Was the water
I was
cold?
swimming, just standing in the Ganga.
Was the water cold?
I didn't think about that.
Well, there you go. It's even better. You don't get the cold water. Go back.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Why did Mahaprabhu not want to show anyone his nocturnal kirtans before, and then why did he switch? What was his reason for doing it?
Because he specifically took sannyas to expand the range of the mercy that he was giving out. Because he specifically said that was his reason. He spoke to Nityananda Prabhu about that. That was the reason why he took sannyas. He wanted to give his mercy to the people who were criticizing him, people who were, everyone. That's the only answer that I know. And also, it's an interesting thought, because on different days with us as individuals, and maybe at different points in our life, our moods change. So this was the time in his life where his mood changed to completely Audarya, completely expand. It was always going to be. And this is when it happened. Do you know what it also explains in Adi Lila of Caitanya Caritamrta that when everyone was getting his mercy after he took sannyas, except for one group. And you know what group that was? What group?
Impersonalist?
Yeah, the Mayavadis. So he went to Benares, which is the seat of Mayavad philosophy, or one of the main seats of Mayavad philosophy, to give mercy to them. They were escaping his net of mercy. That's described, I think, in the 7th chapter of Adi Lila. Thank you. Any other questions? Prajwalhan?
No, I was wondering the same thing as just asked.
If someone asked you that question, how would you answer it?
to be able to.
Shivi, you have an answer to that question?
What question?
The question of why did Mahaprabhu open the doors to everyone and give mercy to everyone after he took sannyas and let everyone participate in the kirtan? And before that, when he was in Navadvip, the doors were shut. It was very strict who could come and who couldn't come.
Because he had so many people did it before, and when he wasn't a sannyasi, and he wanted more people to have a turn without the people who already had a turn.
But all the people who already had their turn, they also got their turn then too. So he just allowed everyone to come, anyone who wanted to come. And when he was in Jagannath Puri at Rath Yatra, the door even opened wider. Thank you, by the way. Good answer. But the door opened even wider in Jagannath Puri, because in Jagannath Puri the people weren't even coming to see him; they were coming just for the Rath Yatra festival. And then he would dance there, and everyone would experience ecstasy by his ecstasy, due to his ecstasy, and the ecstasy of the devotees. Any other questions or comments?
Well,
Is this a question or a comment?
no, it's not really argument. I was thinking of another answer for the question.
Okay, it's an answer.
In Jagannath Puri, the doors were wider open probably because more people came, and then so more people could participate, and more people could get it quicker.
Yeah. Have you ever been to Jagannath Puri? Have you been there during Rath Yatra?
No.
Would you like to go during Rath Yatra? Raise your hand if you've been to Jagannath Puri during Rath Yatra. I know that the group has been there during Rath Yatra. Only if he was here, he could tell us what it was like. Prasmahan, why don't you see if he's in a state where he'd come and tell us what it was like in Rath Yatra in Puri. See if you can find him. Okay. But I think we probably end now because we should end on time. Thank you very much. Sri Caitanya Caritamrta ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.